You're watching the Movie Dogs. We bark about the movies and nothing but the movies. Welcome to the Doghouse. We take a bite out of the movies. Subscribe to the Movie Dogs and become part of our film-loving community. Hit that subscribe button and don't forget to click the bell for updates. See you in the next review.
Welcome, everybody, to the Movie Dog Show. All right, folks, we've packed back up in the DeLorean, and we are going back to the 1980s. And tonight, we are going to talk about one of my favorite films. It's in my top 10, The Color of Money, starring Paul Newman, Tom Cruise, Elizabeth Antonio. This was directed by Martin Scorsese. It was a sequel to The Hustler, which was one of Paul Newman's iconic roles, which also starred George C. Scott, Jackie Gleason. Hell of a damn good film, based on a great book. As this book was based off a sequel that was a lot different. It was a lot different. Those who were fans of the movie and the original book know that Minnesota Flats was in the book, and Fast Eddie Phelps, which was Newman's the character that Newman played, him and them go on a road trip. Well, this one was about 25 years after The Hustler. Paul Newman wanted to come back and play Fast Eddie, especially after the book was, the sequel book was, had come out. And Martin Scorsese, he wanted to do it, and, got one of his best films. Oddly enough, when this movie came out, it was panned by the critics. Did very well in the box office. And hell, it earned Paul Newman that long overdue Oscar. The man had been nominated at that time maybe 5 or 6 times, never got it. And oddly enough, he decided not to show up for those Academy Awards that year, and he ended up winning finally after all the years of trying to get one. But rightfully and earned in this movie. Paul Newman was at his apex, and this was just, at the time, Paul Newman, I think, was in his 50s. And proving that he can still deliver. I mean, it's a simple little thing. One of my favorite sports, billiards. I love playing pool. This was one of the movies that got me to want to play that game and love it every second, especially in the 90s when we used to have a bunch of pool halls in my hometown. I'd hit every single one of them and became a regular. Tom Cruise, he was just hot off of Top Gun. And this is one of those that stretch of films in the 80s and early 90s where Tom Cruise would have a veteran actor as his co-star, and of course he was Paul Newman's co-star, and they worked so well together, and the chemistry was so great, and they became good friends. Paul Newman got Tom Cruise into amateur car racing, and that's where Tom Cruise did reason why he did Days of Thunder. But again, just the cast was just amazing. It's just a simple Fast Eddie. He's now a salesman for liquor, and he's he was in one of the places that he regularly goes and sells his booze, and he happens to see and notices Tom Cruise's character Vincent, who is just this savant when it comes to pool. He is a natural. And Fast Eddie, he sees it. Elizabeth Mastrantonio, who was a big actress there in the 80s, who herself was in a Martin Scorsese film a couple years prior, the second Scarface. And again, she just delivered another knockout performance like she did throughout the entire 80s. Just in between her and Cruise, you can see that these are two opposites, but they worked so well together, and the fact that he was able to play this guy who's just everyday Joe, who he knows he's talented, he's arrogant and everything, but he doesn't know how good he really is, and he doesn't know he so Fast Eddie wants to teach him and learn the ropes, and he knows that he can make money off him. So in a way, he was kind of using him. But in the process, there was some tension between the three of them. It almost became like a love triangle. Mary Elizabeth Montantonio's character was her boyfriend broke into Vincent's family's home, and in that process, she fell for him. And she just the innocence that Vincent had, and if you watch the movie and you listen about their backstory, you'll get exactly Vincent, arrogant prick that he may be, he also had a heart, and that was the innocence that that Newman's character at some point did have, but by the time you met him in Hustler, it was long gone. But he started feeling that hunger again. He started to have the love of the game again, and he as time goes on, during their little road trips and everything, going around, showing the ropes and getting Vincent, seasoned to go play at this pool tournament, that he starts getting a little bit of the hunger too, and it's an uphill battle, trying to keep Vincent tamed, trying to keep him that urge to want to win constantly. He had to back him, try to teach him to keep it back a little bit and everything. You're playing a game to hustle. You're gonna hustle people out of their money, and it was just for Vincent, it's hard to the thought of defeat. That's something that you're damn good at. Again, you got some great casts that kind of appears. Some character actors that you'll know. John Turturro, who played one of Eddie's a protege, that he financed a lot of his games, and he kind of drops him in favor of Vincent. And of course, it's not prominent throughout the film, but you can tell there was some bitterness there. I mean, but I think would have been great for the ending of the film if Vincent and that guy who was equally pretty good himself, would have squared off. But and I don't want to give too much away or any spoilers too much. But again, when it comes down to getting to Atlantic City and this pool tournament, where you see a lot of some of the best pool players in this film. Martin Scorsese did not hold back. He got a lot of great pool players. And he really emphasized on the game itself in certain parts, when it comes to trick shots, close-ups of those, cue balls, going into the pockets, the slow motion. The film, opens with a narration by Martin Scorsese about the rules and the fundamentals of 9-ball, which was very popular and still is in a way in the 80s. It got televised more because it was a quicker game. But again, just really seeing all the techniques that I'd have to say I did a little hustling myself as an adolescent. As a matter of fact, I got kicked out of the little roller rink that was here locally in my county for almost life for hustling money off some kids. I guess I thought I was a fast daddy myself or something like that. But again, you got to really respect this movie, that it the story itself of Fast Eddie kind of in a way redeeming himself, because he starts getting hungry again and wanting to get back into it. And of course, there's this one scene with a young Forrest Whitaker. I think the few things he had done already was maybe Bird with Clint Eastwood, a movie that Clint Eastwood had directed, and Fast Times at Ridgemont High. But Forrest Whitaker, you could see the promise and of the brilliance of an actor that he ended up being now when he's playing up against Fast Eddie. And he basically hustles Fast Eddie by playing a guy who's a little slow or disabled in a way, mentally. And it just, God, the movie was just, it broke Eddie. He realized how much that he did not or never learn from the last time, and he's just almost broken. And he leaves Vincent and his girlfriend, and then they go and their separate ways. But then Fast Eddie, snaps out of it, regroups, and gets himself a pair of new glasses, to see better, and he starts, practicing again. One of his old stomping grounds that he had always traveled around to, and he gets himself back into the game, and he goes to that tournament, puts himself into it, and he beats everybody. He's being the legend Fast Eddie, and goes up against John Turturro and beats John Turturro. But then, of course, the student versus the teacher happens, and Cruz and Newman go one-on-one, and then he beats him, only to find out that Vincent was throwing the game. He was betting on him against himself, and he made some good money and on the side. And Newman was a little pissed off. He, at the rest of the game or the tournament, he bows out. He forfeits. And then towards a little bit later at the end of the day, they have a disagreement, an argument. And he's like, I want your best. That's what Newman's asking for Vincent. He wants to know, who is the best? Did I teach you everything I know? Are you truly that damn good? And do I still got it? And that's how the movie ends, with them about to ready to start a game. And, with him saying, I'm back. And cracks that cue ball right into the cluster of cue ball of the balls. And it stops right there. And, I have to say, music, some of the songs, were not to my taste, but the theme song called the main titles by Robbie Robinson of the band, who Martin Scorsese worked with by doing their last concert movie several years prior in the 70s, it's just one of the great songs. I mean, I've got the soundtrack, and of course the title, the main song of the whole movie is in the way that you use it by Eric Clapton. But guys, you got to listen. It's just a really ass-kicking song. It was constantly being played in the pool halls, and the poster itself was always hanging up on the walls in the pool halls, because this was the definitive pool movie along with The Hustler. So, I mean, it is just one of those moments in cinema that, as I said, didn't get, Siskel and Ebert bashed this movie, but, it ended up doing pretty decent, and it was one of Paul Newman's finest hours, and he won his Oscar finally. And Tom Cruise, it proved he was an actor. Tom Cruise is a great actor. We all know him as a guy who'll strap himself to a plane and just about anything at the age of older than Paul Newman is now, or was then, and he's still doing all these stunts. So, but it is just such a great movie. I highly recommend people check this movie out. It's just that damn good. Well, I can't, there's pool hall junkies, there's a few other things here and there, but nothing that really just captured the spirit of the game of billiards. There's not really many, but as far as I know, that I've seen pool hall movies or anything like that, or billiards movies or anything like that, but I haven't played in quite a while. But God, it is just such a fun game, and once you really get the fundamentals of it and everything, it can be a very addictive game too as well. Just don't catch yourself wanting to bet all the time. It's going to really, it will cause problems, especially if you watch The Hustler. Again, I highly recommend this movie, folks. Do check it out. It's a great piece of 80s cinema. Again, it's in my top 10 of all time favorites. Do check it out. And check out the rest of the videos during the course of this month. I'm going to try to do a blitzkrieg of the 80s reviews here on the Movie Dog Show. Joshua Church will be joining me on a few of the episodes. He'll be hosting a few himself. And again, check them out all month. And, well, probably into May as well. So, again, folks, thanks again for this great year. It's going great so far. Really great when it comes to viewership and when it comes to subscribers, folks. All right. Well, that's all the time I got. Do check out The Color of Money, directed by Martin Scorsese. You will not be disappointed. It is great drama and a great, I guess you can categorize as sports film. All right, folks, that's all the time I got. Thanks for watching, and please keep on watching. Bye.
Hey, like and subscribe. Be sure to check out more of the content on the Movie Dogs channel. All the reviews and cool remarks and cool guests like me, Josh Church, the owner of River Monster Comics. We are in Denellen, Florida, so if you're ever in the area, come by and check out the shop. Get some cool nerd stuff, comics, pops, toys, whatever. And swing by and just have some cool conversations about movies and all things pop culture. We appreciate you. See you soon.